Welcome back to Tropicana Field, everyone. We are talking about the future of the Tampa Bay Rays, and joining us right now is Brian Auld, the co-president of the Rays, and Melanie Lentz, who is the vice president of strategy and development. Do I have that right?
Strategy and development.
Brian, we'll start with you. We interviewed Mayor Buckhorn earlier today in terms of where we are in the process. He says it's moving along. He's hoping that the Rays come up with a little bit more money so the team does its part and the community does its part. Where do we stand right now?
Well, the team money and the community money are very closely tied together. We've got a group called Tampa Bay Rays 2020 right now that's out there recruiting corporate support. And the better work they do, the more money we'll be able to contribute to the project. We need to be sure that when we move into that new ballpark, our business is in position to put a competitive team on the field. And so we have to keep an eye on what our finance payments are going to be, and we have to keep an eye on what our revenues are going to look like. And I think there's an opportunity to make sure those pieces balance out in a way that's a win for everybody.
There seems to be a deadline towards the end of the year where the deal with St. Pete was struck to allow the Rays to look towards Hillsborough County and elsewhere. What kind of confidence do you have that you're going to make it?
We've got 6 months. It's all the time that we need. The issue isn't the clock ticking. The issue is finding the political will and the deal that we need to strike. And so we're getting very close to being able to negotiate all those terms, and I'm confident we're going to be able to find a solution. It's a complicated matter, but we have enough time to get it done.
What kind of cooperation and help are you getting, not from whether it's the city or the county, but the business community, the corporate community, which is being asked to also, for lack of another term, pony up and to keep this, keep the Rays here?
Well, Ron Cristaldi and Chuck Sykes, the leaders of that Tampa Bay Rays 2020 group, are working extremely hard on their own time and on their own dime to try to make sure that all the companies in Tampa Bay recognize how important it is to keep the Rays in town. It's what we all want. We can't do that without their support. We need to know they're going to be there. We need to know they're going to be consistent supporters of the team in a new ballpark. Otherwise, there's not a lot of point to what we're doing. And so we're really eager to see some of those companies step up, make commitments to support the Rays in that new ballpark, because we need to know that there's going to be fans in the seats if we go about building a project this significant.
Melanie, you're in a unique situation because at the same time that you are trying to put this package together, the financing to build this new stadium, you're trying to market the team to the community. You have a lot of young ball players here. So how do you go about the job of keeping fan interest and community interest while the team is rebuilding and you're looking to build a new stadium?
Sure, so this is all about putting together, really from the ballpark standpoint, the ballpark of the future, reimagining what baseball could truly be here in Tampa Bay. And so we've spent almost 2 years going through these blue sky workshops, talking to fans, talking to different business groups, community groups, trying to understand what they want to see for their new ballpark. And it's really important that this is, this isn't just the Rays putting our idea out there. This is collecting idea, thoughts, input, feedback from all sorts of fans, all sorts of different people from across the region. And so when we really kind of unveiled this ballpark, it's the ballpark of the Rays, by the Rays, for the Rays, really. And so the interest is there just because everybody wants to be a part of something so fresh and so new.
What is the strategy in terms of where you hope to build this ballpark in Ybor City? And we're talking about, our home is the Sarasota Manatee area. What is your target in terms of the fan base you want to attract to go to these games even more than folks are right now?
Sure. So, the location in Ybor City is really at the heart of the region. It's the heart of the population center. It's the heart of the business center of the region. And so being able to pull from fans from across the region through all different modes, whether it's by roads, by bikes, by walking, just getting people to this site. We really think it truly brings the most diverse and the largest population to the new ballpark.
It's important to note, just raw numbers, there's twice as many people that live within a 30-minute drive of the Ybor site as Tropicana Field. We have great fans all over the region. We see it in our television ratings every single night. Folks love this team, and where we are today versus where we are in 1998 is we're miles apart. We've got a terrific fan base. Our ballpark is hard to get to for a lot of them. Ybor makes it a lot closer for a lot more of those fans.
Is it difficult right now that until you have these answers, until a deal is struck, you're dealing with a situation that, the team, though few games below 500 right now is still competitive, but you're dealing with an area where it's really it's not a fan experience outside the ballpark where a lot of people could go before and after and really hang out.
Well, I would say downtown St. Pete is one of the coolest spots in the entire region right now, and we hear all the time about people coming over, having a bite to eat downtown, and really enjoying themselves in the area. And we're seeing a lot of development crop up around the field, around Tropicana Field right now, and you see this enormous buzz over what this site could be with or without baseball going forward. So I don't think that's the issue. I do think you hit on something important, though, which is that we have tried extremely hard to be very candid and honest about our situation with people. That means telling the truth, which isn't always what people want to hear. And the reality of our situation in this building is that even during some very successful seasons, even during a World Series run, we've struggled to make it out of the top two or the bottom 2 or 3 in attendance. We've got to do better than that. We've got to figure out a way to get more people to the game in order for this business to be sustainable and for the Rays to be here for generations to come. And that's the reason we're looking at an area that is significantly closer to so much more of the population base.
And even as a result, so we're looking forward, but we're also investing in our present. We spent a tremendous amount of time and resources just upgrading the fan experience here at Tropicana Field. Even just this past season, bringing on our new food and beverage partner, Levy, you've seen tremendous investment in the fan experience here. And so while we continue to look toward the future, we're not kind of giving up on what we have here in the present. We're really proud and excited for all the activities here at Tropicana Field.
So I'm wondering what your reactions were when the Wall Street Journal published a story a couple of weeks ago raising the question whether Major League Baseball can make it in Florida, period. And then they tried to compare the Rays situation with the Marlins situation, which I would imagine a lot of folks say are really, it's apples and oranges.
It's hard to know what's going on in Miami for us because we don't spend a lot of time focusing on it. We believe in baseball in Tampa Bay. We've invested $7 million, as Melanie said, into this building this past offseason. Well, this is our home for the next 5 years, no matter what happens with Ybor City. And so we believe in it. We see the numbers. Again, people watching on television, people wearing Rays gear. You can't go anywhere in the Tampa Bay region anymore without running into folks in Rays gear. We believe in it. We know it's going to work. We know baseball is going to be here for generations to come. It's just a matter of getting that shovel in the ground, getting this project moving forward, and telling everybody what that future is going to be.
We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, right? And so this is the first time that we're actually seeing that generational fan, that kid that grew up as a Rays fan is now starting to come to the games with his kids.
And some of those kids who grew up with the Rays are now playing third base.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool.
Pretty exciting, right?
But I would imagine it's never pretty to watch the sausage being made here, and so you have folks like Bob Buckhorn and other members of the community who are, the conversation, the public conversations are difficult. How do you keep it all together, as this process moves forward?
Our number one objective is honesty. We want people to understand the situation. We want people to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Again, it'd be easy to just say what everybody wants to hear, but we don't think that gets us to where we need to go. And I always point back to when Stuart Sternberg first took over the team in 2005, and he said, we're under construction. This team is not going to the playoffs next year. We have a lot of work to do, and we're going to put that work in. 3 years later, we were in the World Series. It didn't help us sell season tickets. It didn't help us sell sponsorships. In fact, it probably hurt us. But we wanted people to understand that we're going to be straightforward with you about this business, about how we're running it, why we're running it, and what we're doing with it. And we all take a lot of pride in being part of an organization that does that.
So let me see if I have you right on one thing that you mentioned earlier. In terms of the money that the team will be putting into it, you're saying that you have to balance between the money for the stadium and the money in terms of keeping the team competitive on the field.
Correct. We've got to, whatever amount that we put into the ballpark, we have to finance. Our business needs to be able to pay that, and there are interest payments associated with it, not unlike a mortgage on a home. And if those payments get too high and our revenues don't correspondingly rise, we're talking, we may not be able to put a team with a payroll any higher than what we have today on the field. That's not the objective here. The objective is to fundamentally push that payroll higher so that we can be more competitive in what is, I believe, the toughest division in all of sports.
Our conversation on the future of the Rays continues in a moment. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back for Final Thoughts, everyone. Joining us is Brian Auld, the co-president of the Rays, and Melanie Lenz, the vice president of strategy and development. So Brian, what do you want people watching this to walk away from in terms of where we are at in terms of these negotiations and the likeliness that we're going to have a deal for a new stadium in Ybor?
We're doing everything we can to get to that deal, but what I want to leave people with is, at a minimum, we've got 5 more years in Tropicana Field. We have an incredibly exciting team. A lot of players coming up right now, making a lot of noise. Good winning streaks, a couple tough spots as well, but the future is really, really bright. We're going to put a winning baseball team on the field very, very soon. We're going to put a competitive team on the field that I think is going to be able to energize this entire community. And when all is said and done, we're going to figure out a way to stay here in Tampa Bay and to do that for generations to come.
I've seen some comments from folks in St. Petersburg that they have not given up on the idea of keeping the Rays and building a new stadium right here. If the deal in Hillsborough does not work out, are you willing to revisit that?
We are singularly focused on getting that deal done right now, and we aren't considering any of the other options at present. But we know that we have a lease here at Tropicana Field for another 10 years, and so that's going to be in place if something else doesn't happen, and that's what I would leave the folks of St. Petersburg thinking.
So Melanie, how do you go about your job over the next year or so in terms of keeping enthusiasm for the team going while all these negotiations are taking place?
Sure. So I think, as Brian mentioned earlier, our mission statement is to energize the community through the magic of Rays baseball. And baseball and Tampa Bay go hand in hand. And when we talk about the Ybor site, the earliest days of baseball being played in Tampa Bay were the cigar factory leagues in Ybor City. And so when we talk about baseball in Tampa Bay, it's in our DNA. And so we just have to keep reminding people of that baseball and Tampa Bay just work together.
Right now, the Rays are basically, keeping their heads almost above water here. Are you hoping by the end of the year you may not be in the playoffs, but you're keeping a competitive team on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. We came into this season believing that with some good health and a couple good breaks, we absolutely had a team that could compete for a playoff spot. We've struggled with the health and the luck so far, but there's no reason those things can't turn the rest of the year, and I look forward to seeing what these guys do. At a minimum, we're going to get a chance to look at some guys like Jake Bowers and Willie Adames, Arroyo, who are the future of this organization, and it's going to be fun to watch and see what they can do.
Okay, Brian, Melanie, Nance, thank you very much for joining us.